What's up, everybody? My name is Ross, and this is David, and this is the Shooters Club. It's a creative podcast dedicated to photography, video, the creative industries as a whole, and also business advice, tips, what's going on in our life, industry news, and all that good stuff. So welcome to episode 1. What's up, David?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. So I'm assuming some of you have come over here from Instagram or are already subscribers to the Brotographer on YouTube. And if so, welcome. And thank you for tuning into this first episode. But I want to take this first episode to kind of introduce myself, who I am in a longer form than a typical YouTube video, and who David is as well. He's a talented videographer / cinematographer and wedding filmmaker, and so I want you guys to get to know him as well. Anyways, you want to go first? You want me to go first, man?
You go first.
All right. So I'm Ross, known on the internet as quote unquote the Brotographer. I am a gym owner in Modesto, California, and just someone who loves blogging, photography, video, hybrid shooting, all that good stuff. I've run the Brotographer, which is an Instagram, a website, and a YouTube channel for the last 4-ish years, and had some success on those platforms. And now my main job with photography and video, being the owner of about a 250, 260 member gym, is to do all of the marketing content for that. So the main thing I do is I shoot video, photos. Like I said, I do all the marketing, do any hype videos, do any like interview style stuff. I do all the photography and video for the boot camps. Any ads that go out on the internet, I shoot those too. So kind of have to be a jack of all trades. And that's kind of what my current life is like. That's basically it. I also do the Brotographer, and I review, talk about gear, accessories, and just trying to grow this YouTube channel into something that's a little bit more focused and continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Anyways, my co-host is David Gomar. Like I said, he's a talented, I don't even know what you call yourself, man. Are you like a cinematographer? Do you want to be called a wedding filmmaker?
Just filmmaker in general. Focus on weddings, but I consider myself a filmmaker, I think, first and foremost.
Is the moniker videographer kind of like you feel like you have like
cheap.
a handy cam?
Yeah, sounds like you're not really serious about what you're doing.
Right.
I don't if I call myself a videographer, which I have and I will here and there, but like it doesn't sound serious to me.
Right.
Like you're ready to jump in the industry.
Right.
Videographer kind of seems amateurish to me, but some people some people like using that term. I use it from time to time as well, so I don't know.
So David, he creates amazing videos. On the amateur note, before we like really get into this podcast, I do want to state that I am an amateur, or I'd call myself like just a semi-pro. I mean, I do make stuff in, like a corporate style or, YouTube, which is definitely amateur. And I try and create content that looks as professional as possible. But my main job is not filmmaking or photography. It is supplementary to what I do on a daily basis. But I'd call David more of a professional. So when I speak, don't take me too seriously. When he speaks...
No. Don't put it on me. But I would say when I say amateurish, two clients, if I don't introduce myself as a videographer, because to clients, they kind of want to hear filmmaker, cinematographer sounds more fancy for the wedding business.
There's a premium quality to that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so for me, I don't care myself, but for the couples, it's what I want to portray.
Right. It's all part of your marketing as well.
Exactly.
And people, I'm sure, are much more willing, even if the same product comes out, they're much more willing to shell out money for a filmmaker as opposed to a videographer.
Yeah. They want the filmmaker, the storyteller, the cinematographer. The videographer, they kind of think, oh, it's the guy down the street and family member, something like that.
So how long have you been shooting? What's your background? How'd you get into it?
The way I got into it, I had a family that they did a bunch of art, street art and stuff, and I kind of wanted to be creative. I wanted to partake in being an artist, and I could not draw. I couldn't paint. So I picked up a camera. I was kind of just sitting around and just picked up a camera and said, let me try to be artistic with a tool that'll help me do that. So the camera really brought that out in me. I like technology, so I gravitated towards it. And that was like about 10 years ago. And that's when I picked up my first camera, and it kind of took off from there. Started taking photos, took a couple photography classes at the local college, and then just went from there. So yeah, so about 9 years now.
Solid. So we're in 2019 right now, September of 2019. I think I am a little bit later than you. I started shooting photos for like a little supplement brand I had and like a t-shirt company and all that good stuff. And I'm the exact same way. I can't draw. My penmanship teacher used to tear up my papers. Like
Yeah.
I can't write, I can't draw, I can't sing, all that good stuff. Yeah, can't paint, none of that. I'm not an artist at all. But I felt like, yeah, the technology and the art of photography and video allows you to kind of express yourself in a different artistic and creative way.
And I find a lot of photographers or videographers are the same way. Like they're like, hey, I couldn't draw,
Yeah.
but I still wanted to be an artist and kind of pick up a camera or just create. They want to create something as well. So
Nice. Well, you guys will get to know us even better. We want this to be a weekly podcast, and we want to release it in video form as well. So if you're listening to this, thank you so much. And this version will also be on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/The Brotographer. So we have a nice triple angle, like multi-camera shoot going on in here. We're shooting in my basement, which is my YouTube/podcast studio, but
don't tell them that.
don't tell them that. But man,
Secret location.
you find that most people are exactly like that. They use their bedrooms. They use like a basement. I'm lucky enough to have this basement. It's absolutely amazing. And one day I'll do like a little mini studio tour because this place is really small, but hopefully we've made it look decent. If you're watching this,
It's really good. It's super professional. I like it. It looks great. You did it. You did a really good job with it.
So now we kind of want to go on to a section where we talk about like what's going on in our life, what we've been shooting lately, and any correlations to, I don't know, anything, the gear, any problems we've had, any successes, all that good stuff. This last week, I was shooting with Jared Hill, who's another creative here in town and a YouTuber as well. He runs State of Tech and Ditch Auto, technology and photography based YouTube channels. And he was reviewing that Boosted Rev, the scooter.
Yeah.
So I think that's what it's called. Boosted Boards makes a scooter. So man, I was schlepping around on I have a Aerial Rider D class. It's an electronic bike, and
Dope bike. I like
it is
that.
sweet, and it is so fast.
I want one.
Goes like 30 miles an hour. Well, let's hit up Aerial Rider.
Yeah.
It goes like 30 miles an hour, and I'm also reviewing the Feiyutech AK 4500 gimbal, and it's the kind of ring format. It's a single-handed gimbal, but you can buy like the ring for it to make it a two-handed gimbal.
Ronin M almost.
Yeah, kind of like that. And but I was using it single-handed, like
Safe.
throttled,
Safe.
no helmet, throttled because I needed to be able to see
Super
the
safe.
camera. Yeah, so no helmet, throttling with my left hand, holding the camera with my right
Don't
hand.
try this at home.
And if you're watching, I'll overlay some of the
Warning
footage
sign.
that I was going to show. Yeah, don't try that at home or in the middle of crowded streets because we were definitely doing that.
Like
But
Ross.
yeah, get the shot, man. Get the shot. But that's kind of what I shot last week. I didn't get to shoot a whole lot. At the gym, I didn't shoot anything last week. We've got a boot camp coming up, so I'll be doing a lot of photography and video for that, and kind of talk about a little bit later why I use the products I use to do that, because I shoot everything, and it's crazy, it's hectic, it's fast paced. But that's what I shot last week, so I'm hoping those shots they came out. I also did a little bit of shooting, just some B-roll for my review of the Aerial Rider D class. Spoiler, yeah, for the bike. So it's so cool. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm stoked with it. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see like tons of
seen
photos.
his helmet.
Yeah, that Ruroc helmet. They're
That photo with the eagle in the background.
Yep.
That's dope.
Yeah,
I like that.
super sweet. There's some murals here in downtown Modesto. And there's a giant eagle. So we did one of those like levitating shots. But yeah, man, what have you been shooting?
Real quick, what'd you think about the gimbal that you were trying out?
Oh, it's good. It holds like 10 pounds.
Really?
So it can hold a massive payload. So
Oh, that's why it has the double
handle. But even with
for
the single handle grip, it can hold 10-pound. It can hold like a 10-pound camera and
Yeah.
lens and all that stuff. So it's relatively heavy just because I had so much stuff. I had another monitor on it, like all this stuff, still holding with one hand.
Yeah.
But it's smooth. It's nice and smooth. I'd say it's comparable to the Ronin S. I think the Ronin S is a little bit easier to tweak in terms of the app, how quickly it pans and tilts and all that stuff, and how smooth it can be. It's a little bit easier, even though you have to go into the app. On this gimbal, the AK-4500, there's actually an LCD screen on the gimbal,
okay.
and so you can just change modes. Like there's a touch screen. Like if you just want it to pan, good. If you want to pan and tilt, good. If you want to do like full follow, with the roll as well, that's super easy. So in terms of convenience like that, not having to bust out your phone and deal with all that to change parameters, that's cool. I still have tested a little bit more, but in terms of smoothness and everything, I think it's totally fine. But yeah, that payload is cool. I want to put like a 70 to 200 on it and do some shots like that.
I don't want to put any of that payload on that
Man.
gimbal. I want the least amount of gear on my gimbal.
Yep. So
this weekend.
Yeah. Speaking of gear.
Yeah, I was playing with the gimbal. Not playing with it. I was shooting with it. And
which gimbal is that?
The Ronin S.
Okay.
So I shot 2 weddings, and we use it only. I'm trying to use it less, and trying to break down our gear to kind of save our bodies as well. Like just not be super tired. Some weddings go 8-10 hours.
Oh, for sure.
So I used the Ronin S a little bit and kind of just kept it light. Just the camera, no mic on it. Portrait shots, slow-mo, easy. And kind of minimal use. So we were out in Pinecrest Mountains, beautiful view. You can't go wrong shooting up there, right?
Right.
It's just beautiful. And it's the first weekend we're trying out our Panasonic's the GH5s.
Oh yeah, so you recently sold all your Sony stuff, right?
Yeah, we're in the process of selling it. I've sold half of it.
Okay.
And the rest is going. It's for sale. So I am gonna be getting rid of it. And so it was cool. It was a cool experience shooting with the GH5s.
Right.
I had a shoot last week for a bridal show, and I kind of tested it out. I picked up one GH5 just to kind of see what the hype is about.
Yep.
On the stabilizer. Is it the 5-axis?
Yeah.
The IBIS. The IBIS on
the
it.
internal 5-axis stabilization.
I kept hearing about the IBIS on it, and I kind of wanted to try out the 10-bit color.
Yeah.
But I was most impressed by the IBIS, by just being able to handhold at 4K 60.
Yep.
Shooting 8-bit, because it won't do 10-bit color on 4K 60.
Oh, okay.
But it was great. It was like freeing. I felt like a photographer again.
Right.
Because
it's got the micro four thirds sensor, so it's got a smaller sensor in a bigger body, so it's able to
it's
float.
just shaking around. It's in there. It keeps it super smooth. It's
Yep.
able to adjust. So I fell in love with it, and right away I looked at my Sonys.
See ya.
And with the monopods, tripods, I said no, thank you.
Yep.
I want to be light for what I do. I want to be light and unseen, and be able to get creative at a moment's notice. Right. It's
Right.
a live event. Those moments don't happen again. The first kiss, they're
Yep.
dancing. Any small moment, I want to be as nimble as possible. So my gear has to be able to turn on and be ready to go at any moment. So if I don't have a monitor and I'm just hand holding, no tripod, I can get low, I can get weird angles and kind of just get more creative. So I'm choosing a little bit of more creativity instead of more of that, more light, more of the technology coming from the Sony, right? It has
Right.
a bigger sensor.
But I mean, the GH5 has a lot of technology that the current Sonys don't even have,
That's right.
which kind of like is a segue into like our main topic today, which is like our main like formal topic, which is like being brand agnostic. I kind of admit I'm not brand agnostic. I'm one of those people who becomes a fanboy of whatever product that I'm using. And I mean, that's to be expected, but you found what product works for you, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so I started with the Nikon 5500,
Right.
right? So I started with that, started shooting photos, and started doing a few videos here and there, and then got the Nikon D800, started doing photography with it. Well, once I moved into video, I switched to Sony, the A7S. I was doing live events as well, so I needed that low light. Doing
Right.
more club events, kind of darker settings, so I
Yep.
needed the low light. So I went with the Sony. Nikon didn't have a good video camera for me to go to.
Right.
The A7S had just come out. I thought, you know what, it's a perfect time to switch. Sell the D800.
Yep.
Switched on over. Everything was great. And now, so I just kind of been going with what I need, what I needed, whatever my task requires. I
Yep.
kind of just go and search for the tool that does the best job. on
Exactly.
that, so
Exactly. All right. So that leads me into just why I use Sony. So for me, I started out with Canon. I've only ever used Canon and Sony cameras. I don't think I've taken a picture on a Nikon except at NAB this last year.
great cameras.
Yeah, I mean they do seem like great cameras. I just never used them. So I started with Canon. I started getting into like the portrait game, and quickly realized that that's not what I wanted to do. I didn't want to shoot weddings. That was way too high stress for
Yeah.
me. Way too
Well,
stressful.
Neither did I, but here we are.
Man, exactly. Because if you miss it, you miss it.
Yeah.
And I just did not want to miss it. So, and yeah, it's a ton of work. So I started doing some portraits. The portrait market is so saturated, man. So that's when I started the Brotographer, and it's if any of you out there are looking to start like a blog, you have to have like the long game mentality. You're not going to make any money for quite some time. So let it be your passion, let it be your hobby and all that. But I went from, man, I had like a T3i and did like product photography and stuff on that for a couple little brands I had. And then I went straight from that to a 5D Mark III. And then I bought a 5DS.
5DS.
Yeah, that 50
Which was that
megapixel
one?
monster.
Is that the big one?
The 50 megapixel one. It looks like a 5D Mark III though, in the same body.
Yeah.
But it has that 50 megapixel sensor.
Had to have the best.
Man, I did. And then I bought a 1DX Mark II,
like
which
that one.
I miss it sometimes. It was an amazing camera. And that's when I started to do more video with that 1DX Mark II, that dual pixel autofocus.
I remember helping you with that one and looking at the footage.
It's so nice. The bit rates are massive. It only shoots 8-bit, like 420, but the bit rates are so massive.
What was it? 400 and something?
Well, in 4K 24, I think it was 400 megabits per second.
Okay.
And I believe, don't quote me on this, it might have been 500 or 600. But when I went up to, which I could never shoot in 4K 60, and now I just want 4K 60
Yeah.
again. But I could shoot in 4K 60, and it would go up to 800 megabits a second. So I get like 15 minutes of video.
wild.
Yeah, I get like 15 minutes of video on this massive like CFast 2.0 card,
you
which
gonna do
also
with that?
costs like $400. Those memory cards.
You got to edit that.
Then you got to edit it. It's in motion JPEG. So motion JPEG is essentially, it is. It's pictures. You're taking
Yeah.
60 pictures, 8 megapixel pictures per second. So imagine my 2015 MacBook Pro, which I still rock.
That's what I'm using.
Dude, it bogged that thing down so
Yeah.
bad. I'd have to what's it called when you turn it into other footage?
Proxies?
No. When you turn like the motion JPEG into like .mov or whatever. I forget.
I forgot what it was called.
Yeah, when you render it out, so you change the file format. So I'd use the 1DX Mark II,
Yeah, there's
and
that. Look at that.
right, and so it worked really well for me. But as after we got the gym, I shot a lot of like high paced stuff in the gym, and the 1DX Mark II did really good for that, and it was good in low light and all that stuff. But when it came time for video, I didn't have IBIS, unless I was shooting in like slow motion all the time, which I don't all the time. It was just so heavy on gimbals, and switching between photo and video modes for me.
Is it hard?
It's not hard, but it just took longer. I already had a couple Sony cameras. I had the A7R II, I think, at the time, and like an A6300, and I was rocking like double lenses too. I had a 70 to 200 in like Canon, and then like a 70 to 200 in Sony, and like a 2470 and a 2470, and it's like, what was the point?
It's a lot of gear.
It was a lot of gear. I wanted to, match colors and be able to shoot in picture profiles.
I'm already getting a headache.
It was a nightmare. Made for some interesting content to compare them and all that stuff, but I just didn't want to do that anymore. So, kind of bit the bullet. And here's some advice: if you are looking to sell gear or trade gear or do anything like that, I would highly recommend like local photography or video groups, number one. Two, fredmiranda.com is amazing. They have like this massive buy and sell forum on there. They have like user ratings where you can, it's like eBay just for photography and video stuff, essentially. Mostly photography, but it carries over. So my advice is to find someone who is just as motivated to switch as you are. So 1DX Mark II was an amazing camera, and it still is. I found someone who'd been living in the Sony system, tried it out, and it didn't work for him. But it worked for me, and we needed to swap some stuff. So I got like really good value. I didn't lose a ton of money.
Yeah.
So I got really good value out of some trades and selling my gear and all that stuff. And going back to why I shoot Sony, man, I'm just talking forever here. But in like a literal moment's notice, in like 10 seconds, I need to shoot photos, flip it over to video, and shoot video. So having a product like the Sony's where I can just be in those custom modes, I can be in 4K, 24, flip it over, immediately hit my settings, like adjust an ND, and go. For like 1080p at 120, and then flip it back into manual mode for photography, get a bunch of pictures, and do it all over. And I've had good success in doing that, and it's helped me out immensely.
And that's something I never do. I never switch. I don't have to take a photo. I don't ever like go into that setting. I don't even take photos with the Sony, and then now with the GH5, I don't need it. I don't even look at that setting. So that's why we differ in the needs, right? Everyone has their own need for their gear. So don't buy into the hype. Don't just go after the gear that just came out. Kind of get the gear that you need to do your job, right? Or follow your passion with it, but something that is built for you as much as it can be.
Right.
And make it work that way. Don't just kind of start buying all kinds of gear. Try something out.
Exactly.
See what you like about it. Rent. I always rent. I rented the GH5 first.
Yep.
Tried it out that way. Fell in love with it.
Yep.
So yeah, there's different gear for different creators.
Yeah, companies like Lens Pro to Go and Lens Rentals and all those places are amazing.
One thing about Lens Pro, this isn't an ad, but they give you a little candy. Like a little,
the little lollipop. Yep.
I'm like, you know what? I like them.
Yep.
And I just like renting from them. I rent from them all the time. So they're great.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So moral of the story, find the gear that works for you, and then just shoot with that and try and be brand agnostic. I will admit that I'm definitely a Sony fanboy. I'm an Apple fanboy, but I like the technology. I like how it feels in the hand when I'm shooting with it. I know it well, and I'm definitely a little bit of a fanboy, but I think it's okay. It's not for everybody, but the gear at the end of the day, it works for me.
Yeah. And to that, at the end of the day, it's a tool. It's a tool to create. So your creativity is the most important thing. So whatever makes it easier for you to create is what you should go with. So
exactly. So we are nearing the end of our podcast, but we wanted to go over some industry news. Both David and I are going to pick a topic in the last couple weeks that has kind of happened or a product that's come out. But the product I want to talk about is the announcement of, shocking, a Sony product.
What?
But the
No.
FX9. So this is their kind of successor to the FS7.
Mark II.
What was that?
Mark II.
Yes, the
FS7 Mark.
FS7 Mark II, but definitely it's a step down from their Venice, which is like their crazy high-end camera. But this is a full frame, cinema dedicated camera. It's not the hybrid cameras that we typically use.
It's not for vlogging?
I mean, technically you probably could, but man, it's the cool thing I like about cinema cameras, and yes, they are bigger. And maybe one day I'll actually like bite the bullet and get one, depending on if it has the right. Depending on if it's what I need.
Do it so I can play with it.
Yeah, absolutely. But it does everything internal. One thing I do get sick of with my Sony cameras is like rigging them up. If I want to use an external monitor, it's a whole bunch of added weight. If I want to throw a cage on it, it's added weight. And then it becomes this like massive behemoth, right?
Yeah, and that's what my Sony A7 III was looking like.
Yep.
I got it to be nimble. I ended up putting on a cage, monitor, mic on it, a handle. So it ended up being...
Yeah, now you can do most
heavy
things like internally, right? You get 10-bit internal. For a lot of cameras, if you want to shoot 10-bit, you got to go out to an external monitor.
Exactly. The little LCD screen on the GH5 is great, by the way.
That is something I miss from my Canon cameras. With I don't... All right, Sony, I'm sure you're not listening, but if you are...
Oh, they definitely are tuning in.
Bro, you make smartphones. How are your LCDs so bad on the back of your cameras? I can't tell if something... I literally set manual focus for these cameras, and I cannot tell by looking on the back of the screen if something is in focus. It's bad.
Yeah.
You make LCDs, put an LCD screen or an OLED or whatever you need to do. Put something in there that's sharp, it's big, and it just works.
And the peaking, the focus peaking on the GH5 is great. It has
you
two
can rely
different
on
settings. Yeah, it's so good. The viewfinder's really good.
Yep.
I end up using the viewfinder a lot.
Yep.
With the GH5, so there's that.
Oh, absolutely. That's another reason why I switched to mirrorless was the electronic viewfinder, and that's a pet peeve for me. Is I'm part of like some photography groups and stuff like that, and there's so many portrait shooters that when someone recommends, like, they're like, what camera? I'm looking to switch cameras, and what do you think is going to be good for me? And somebody recommends like a mirrorless camera. They're like, no, never.
Yeah.
Why? Like you see your exposure in camera before you take the shot.
Yeah.
You don't have to like take the shot and look down at the camera.
Good way to learn. It's a good way to learn.
It's a great way to learn. It's quicker, and everyone's looking to be quicker, unless you're just like amazing at guessing the exposure.
Yeah.
But the FX9, it does everything internally. It is a 6K sensor, but currently it will shoot in 4K up to 60 frames a second.
Does it do RAW internally?
No. Sony has stated that in a couple months or whatever, there's going to be a firmware upgrade when you buy like their extra back. That's like $2,500, kind of like the Red cameras. Yeah, you can build it out a little bit more modular. Adds in like a whole bunch of ports and all that stuff, but you will be able to do 16-bit RAW.
Sounds good.
I mean, I don't even know what that means, to be perfectly honest with you. I would never shoot in that. Can you imagine?
It'll look great on the iPhone.
Yeah, I know. But can you imagine how heavy that is, like on a computer? Yeah. And I don't want to spend $10,000 on a computer to edit that.
I haven't edited ProRes, but I hear that it's a lot easier to edit. It's a lot easier on.
But 16-bit.
Well, yeah.
Can you imagine?
No.
It's easier on a computer, but no, I don't. No, this won't be ProRes.
Oh,
It'll be whatever Sony's RAW
is. Their own RAW.
Yeah. I don't know. What it's gonna be. I know it's not. I know it's not ProRes RAW. Okay, it's whatever Sony's version of RAW is. But yeah, there's 10-bit color in 4K. It does everything internally. I was able to rent the FS5 Mark II.
That's right.
For a fitness shoot for the gym, and I loved it. It was small. It was definitely smaller than what the FX9 is going to be. But one thing that was a pet peeve is I had to use that massive Shogun Inferno, which is the 7-inch monitor, and I like the 5-inch monitors that Atomos makes, but it was 7 inches. You had to have two of the big old batteries, the Sony batteries on the back,
Yeah.
and so it just got heavy and it was kind of unwieldy. Had to have like a nice like firm arm on there, and so I had to shoot everything externally in order to get the best results. But I yeah I wanted and I will want something that'll shoot everything internally. And I think with that upgrade, it also is. They said it'll do 4K 120 frames per second.
That's nice.
So
That's
we'll
nice.
see. The big thing is with this FX9 though is it's the first Sony cinema camera that has had like Sony's autofocus. So it's got that
Yeah.
phase detect autofocus.
That was cool. I saw the video of it.
Yeah,
It
and
looked great.
that's something that it has going for it.
The color profile is interesting.
Oh yeah, Philip Bloom, he released that
S-tone,
video.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
Is it Cinetone?
something
Is it
like that.
Cinetone or
Cinetone S or something
Yeah.
like that. Like
They look really good.
yeah, nice and soft on the skin.
Really good.
Yeah, and so that's something that I'd love to look at in the future is a Sony cinema camera.
A7S3 gonna have it?
I mean, the unicorn. We'll see. Well,
Yeah.
that'll go back to. It'll probably do a few things that I would love, but it's going to be external, and that's to be expected in that tiny form
It's a
factor.
big topic. The FX9, what it came out with, and what that means for the A7S3.
Well, that
Because
seems
it has a lot on there that
it does. That seems to
you
be
would-
Sony's MO. So the FX9 is their big boy.
How much is it?
$11,000
That's it?
just for the body. Yeah. But if you consider, like, it's really not that bad. If it's what you do, and I can't justify buying it, it's not that bad. But then there's rumored to be a successor to the FS5 Mark II. They're just calling it the FX6 or whatever. So I'm assuming it'll have some of those same capabilities. But I'm hoping Sony please allow like raw output or the high frame rates in the Atomos Ninja 5. Please.
You know who
like,
is doing that?
work in conjunction. Yeah, so let's get off of this FX9 topic and get onto your news topic because that kind of flows right into it.
That's the Panasonic S1H. And that's a new camera out by, it's the successor, I think, of the GH5. I believe. I don't think they're going to do a GH6.
Never
I'm
know.
not sure. You never know, but it looks like it's the full frame successor. And it looks good. It looks really good. So it's full frame. It does 6K at 30, I believe. I don't have the spec sheet on me.
Which is crazy. I think it does 6K at up to 30 frames a second.
It might be a like full sensor readout. I'm not sure.
I believe it is.
And it has the 5-axis stabilization. IBIS from the GH5 with the full frame sensor.
If it's anything like the GH5, it's
So-
going to be way better than the IBIS on the Sony's.
Yeah,
Which
so-
is just okay for video.
I'm wondering how that's gonna work.
Right.
The big sensor with the IBIS. How if it's gonna be as good as the GH5, and if it is,
But it's a bigger body, too.
yeah.
So there's
it has
more
the
room.
fans on it.
Yep.
It has big fans. It has all types of cinema features on. The only thing it's missing is the ND, the
internal
yeah,
NDs.
internal NDs. But besides that, one thing that I like about the GH5, and this does it as well, is shutter angle. It's just much more cinema focused, right?
Yep.
Um,
So you don't have to do the almost double on
Yeah.
your shutter speed.
Yeah.
You can actually just do 180
it's
degrees.
180, and then
Yeah.
you can switch frame rate, and
it'll
It's
compensate.
always 180.
That's super nice.
And it has the recording lights on the outside. It just has little things that just make it easier to create.
Right.
Which I love. So they are coming out with the, I believe, was it ProRes RAW for this one?
Yeah, I believe it'll.
They're working on it.
This is another pet peeve of mine. It's going to allow ProRes RAW through HDMI. I personally hit up Atomos and asked if they were going to allow ProRes RAW in the FS5 Mark II through HDMI. And they said no. And they weren't going to allow it through they have like an SDI little back that you can put on there, an adapter, and they weren't going to allow it there too. So I don't know if it sounds like it has to do with what Sony is going to allow and what Panasonic will allow.
Yeah.
And Atomos kind of just captures that. If they have the ability to use HDMI, they will, obviously. but that's pretty exciting, and it does anamorphic.
And it does
right?
anamorphic
Does the
D-squeeze. Yeah,
D-squeeze.
D-squeeze. And one thing with Panasonic, it just seems like they're listening to the customers and they're giving us what we want, right? Just to
Yep.
make things easier. Hey, you guys want the 5-axis on a full frame? Here you go. It has great color. So it just seems like they're more. They're just gonna put more features in there. You know, they're not holding things back.
Right.
I feel like that company is kind of just going all out. Hey,
Yep.
we're gonna give you the best that we can now.
And they kind of, it seems like they realize the limitations that those features put on a camera. And I think the main thing with the mythical A7S III is heat. You want to do all this stuff with that sensor, right? That's why, in my opinion, Canon doesn't allow a lot of those features inside of their weather sealed bodies, because they know, number one, their processing can't hold up, and number two, if it could hold up, it's going to overheat. And
Burning
Canon,
hands.
Canon doesn't release the things that overheat or aren't like perfect. Sony is more willing to shove a lot of features in, and they've had a couple cameras that
And-
overheat, but it's gotten better.
But I think they hold back a little on what features they put on certain body. I feel like
For sure.
they're the Oprah of camera companies, right? They're just like, you get a camera, and they kind of
Yep.
just releasing all these different cameras where.
And they've slowed down a little bit over the last couple of years, but you're
But
you're
there's
right.
so many different models.
Yep.
At least it seems like it to me. That I'm like, okay, which one do I get? I don't know, and
Right.
it almost seems like they don't know what they're
Yeah.
which cameras go into what market, who uses it for what.
And I think they were figuring it out. But Panasonic feels like they figured out that all like 6K in a DSLR sized camera is going to create a ton of heat. So they just put a heat sink
Yeah,
on it.
they
They're like,
just did
okay,
smart-
okay, it won't be weather sealed.
Yeah,
Just don't take it in the pouring rain then.
yeah,
Okay, that's
I-
fine.
yeah. And I love that about them. So
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty curious when you get that camera too to see what it's gonna do. So that's like, in my mind, that's like the perfect A7S III. That camera,
yeah,
perfect.
yeah. If Sony were to come out with it, everyone would be going nuts.
Except
For what?
the autofocus, and that's where you and I differ. Is you don't use autofocus very much, but I heavily rely on it because there's just erratic movement, and there's people running around, jumping, things like
So
that.
that goes back to our conversation about using the right tool for
Yep.
for the job. So I don't need autofocus because
Yep.
I can't miss the moment. I can't until there's an autofocus that's 100% gonna focus on the face that I want, which it's not
Exactly.
gonna happen anytime soon. I can't rely on autofocus at
Yep.
all. So I don't mind that. Even I know the autofocus is getting better. So
Are
I
you-
still don't not gonna rely on it.
Are you manually racking focus as they're walking back down the aisle after a wedding,
so
or you're shooting deeper?
You say you're at an f4.
Yeah,
So you have that deeper focus.
which is like F8. Is that like F8 or like F6.3 on like a full frame equivalent? So it's deep focus.
Yeah, deep focus, and so you kind of just keep your distance. You know where the
Yeah.
focus is at, and you kind of stay there. So I'm not racking focus.
You
as-
live in that.
Yeah.
You live in that. I
Yeah.
can be here. Like the focus ends here. What is that? There's a term for that. It's called the. Oh man.
I'm not sure.
But
Yeah,
for me, yeah, I don't shoot weddings, but I do shoot people like sprinting towards me, and there's no way I am racking focus on that. And I want to shoot.
you can't rack focus. Just quick.
especially on those fly-by-wire lenses. But I'm a sucker for shallow depth of field.
Yeah.
It makes it look so much better, and the clients love
I
it.
do want that.
It makes the marketing look super good, and when you're able to do that. So man, I'm stoked for that
That's one thing I
S1H.
miss with the micro four third sensor.
Yeah, the
It's
depth
that-
of field.
Yeah, it's not
Right.
quite there. It's
But you'll get it.
Yeah, it's close. S1H, I can't wait.
S1H with the Sigma 35mm 1.2.
Is it a 1.2 that they have?
It's a
yeah.
1. That's the big one.
Yeah,
So
that's gonna be nice.
yeah. Well, anyways, that's kind of our news section. Really long-winded, but it is what it is, man. So if you're still here, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I think we're going to wrap it up. This has been our first episode of the Shooters Club. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys for letting me ramble a little bit. So hopefully,
I'm like 90% sure that our family and friends will be the only ones to listen to the first episode.
Yes.
But I mean, stick with us as
guys?
we want this to be a weekly podcast, and just stick with us. We're going to get the show in like we'll probably be more concise over time. We want to have guests on here, have calling guests, interviews, things like that, and we'll have recurring segments. But we took a while to prepare for this, to get the place right, to get the microphones right, having it sound as good as possible. But just bear with us over time because it's only going to get better from here.
And are we experts on any of this?
Absolutely. No.
We are not experts.
No, not experts. So yeah, if you have any questions about things, we'll do the best, our best to answer them. But keep in mind, like, we're kind of figuring this out as we go too. Like, I don't know everything.
We probably should have prepared a little better, but we're gonna learn that, and I think make it work with our schedules.
Yeah, it is what it is. So we will sign off here. I'm Ross.
I'm David.
And we'll see you next time at the Shooters Club. Peace.
Later, guys.